Dr. Marianne and Dr. Pauline, Vrushali, and Sunainaa. Thank you so much. Sure. So our next session is promotion and preservation of cultural knowledge, creativity, and intercultural connection through art. And here I have Sunainaa ma'am and Mahiema ma'am. Sunainaa ma'am will start first. She's the speaker, and Mahiema ma'am will be introduced. She's the panelist. So ma'am, I'd like you to take a seat. And
a very good morning to all you lovely ladies here, and namaste. Hope you're having a lovely stay and visit in our country. To start with, I'm here, I'll give you a little background about myself. I am Sunainaa Magann. I've been born and brought up in Delhi itself. My passion is art. I love art. I have an NGO wherein we support Indian art and we promote them. We promote Indian art. We have artists from all corners of India. We have around 1,000 artists on board. I also run an art gallery wherein we market those artists' work. I'm here to talk about promotion and preservation of cultural knowledge. I'll start with communities, character, and how art and culture strategies create, reinforce, and enhance sense of place. Art and culture strategies help to reveal and enhance the underlying identity, the unique meaning, value, and character of the physical and social form of a community. This identity is reflected through the community's character or sense of place. A community's sense of place is not a static concept. Rather, it evolves and develops over time, reflecting spectrum of social values within and around the community. In this way, the community character of a country, city, town, or neighborhood can be seen as a story or narrative of a place. Planner and community member can come together to reveal and furnish this narrative through various points. An articulation of historic, economic, and cultural context of the community. A commitment to the reinforcement and enhancement of community's identity, and the implementation of policy, regulation, incentives that support and enhance in evolving the identity. Awareness of community identity and character is strengthened by the consideration of all community interests in decision-making processes, the integration of art and culture resources with civic visioning programs, and balancing of the inherent conflicting nature of past, present, and future social values. Here, I'm going to explore how art and culture strategies can be used to understand community context, celebrate community character, and ultimately create, reinforce, or enhance sense of place. Artistic and cultural inventories allow a community to begin to understand the historic, cultural, economic, and social context of a community as essential foundation for developing and building sense of place. A creative community vision can continuously evolve and embrace new ideas while balancing the inherent conflicting nature of past, present, and future community value and culture. Such a vision must reinforce and embrace the changing climate, culture, and character of a place. Preserving and enhancing the local identity, uniqueness, and art and culture asset of a community require that local decision-making, planning process, policies, regulation, and reflect and support community character. Art and cultural programming plays an important role in providing education about the historical and cultural context of a community and in providing opportunity for participation in community life through festivals, events, performance, interactive classes and workshops, and a variety of other activities. I now explore few key points in little detail. The first would be understanding community context. Helping a community begin to understand its historic, cultural, economic, and social context is essential foundation for developing and building sense of place. This context includes a variety of community characteristics like population, demographic, linguistic characteristics, physical and natural resources, cultural history, climate, customs, landscape feature, design and architectural element, local educational institutions, and temporary artistic and cultural exhibits, events, and spaces. A comprehensive reading or inventory of place can help a community begin to develop a voice for its narrative. The urban planning process plays an important role in assisting residents as the inventory and explore their community context. In this way, the planning process provides a grounding mechanism to ensure that the wealth of information latent in the community is revealed, enhanced, and maintained over time. This allows a narrative about the authentic element of community's talent to emerge and thrive. Artistic and cultural inventories allow a community to access its historic, cultural, economic, and social context. These inventories include the identification, assessment, mapping of communities' artistic and cultural resources. The second key point would be reinforcing sense of place, celebrating community's character. While an inventory of place provides the initial context for building sense of place and establishing community identity, the combination of context and the reinforcement of current climate and culture of a place create community character or identity. Reinforcing sense of place requires first, a comprehensive understanding of a community's historic, cultural, economic, social context, and secondly, a vision for the future that continuously evolve and embrace new ideas, while balancing the inherent and conflicting nature of past, present, and future community values and culture. Community character is something a community has inherently, not something that can be applied like a makeup. It is conveyed by not only grand buildings and public spaces, but a whole range of urban elements like residents of all sizes and scale, commercial, government, and institutional buildings, street cross sections, street furniture and graphic, public places, large and small, ceremonial buildings, informal activities such as street markets and fair, food, language, personality that contribute to community's narrative. Only through the understanding and reinforcement of its character can a community flourish civically and economically. The next key point would be local implementation framework. Artistic and cultural inventories, community vision processes, art and culture programming, master plans, public finance investment in urban design and placemaking are important elements of overall strategy that planner can use to explore community context, embrace a major community diversity and uniqueness, and build upon and celebrate community character. Preserving and enhancing the local identity, uniqueness, and art and culture asset of a community require that local decision-making, planning process, policy, regulations reflect and support this community character. Local government program, policies, regulations that incorporate the underlying philosophy or identity of a community can provide a framework for decision-making, encourage development that is place-based, and reinforce the cultural goal and vision of a community. This framework supports the work of a civic leader and community advocates and can help bring new allies, talents, ideas in the planning process. Public art master plans. Public art such as memorial, historical monument, installation, murals, sculptures, mosaic, decorative features, and functional element is an important element in placemaking. Unlike art in private space, public art is ideally site-specific and attuned to its social, economic, and environmental context. Public art can contribute to urban design and the revitalization of civic infrastructure, enhance and personalize public space, comment on environmental and social conditions, and activate civic dialogue. Public investment in urban infrastructure. The design of urban infrastructure such as architectural, street space, transportation facilities, and so on present an opportunity to interpret the many constituent elements of a sense of place, the natural environment, history, culture, language, and other aspects of local environment, economic and social conditions. Through the development of creative street space design, transit facilities, street signage, and other infrastructure, artists can inform, educate, and comment on these local conditions. And the last key point for me would be art and cultural programming. Art and cultural programming provides education about the historical and cultural context of a community and opportunity for participation in community life through festivals, events, performance, interactive classes, workshops, and a variety of other activities. Programming initiates conversation about art and culture, establishes a structure of happenings and plans that ensure that these activities will continue to flourish. This deliberate continuity will help strengthen the creative ideas, inspire citizens, and offer hope that opportunity exists and matters to the community. This increases the livelihood of not only the implementation of arts program but also integration with other community plans. Thank you. Here I would like Mahiema to join in and share her thoughts.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. That was so insightful. A little bit about myself. I have been making films for a long, long time, documentaries. But I would rather call myself a student. Right? So for me, just reaching out and using art in any form has been a way of my life. And art can be anything which, it has been expressions. It can be, it's basically about an extension of yourself, an extending you can, it's what you feel, what you're standing for, what are your beliefs, and how you want to express it and touch another is art. And it can be done in any form. It can be done through painting, sculpting, sculpture, writing, storytelling, and filmmaking, which is a title, or even holding someone's hand. The fact that you can reach out and touch another through anything is art. And that's what I have always believed in, and that's what I've followed as a vocation. And I think I've been blessed because I've managed to turn my innermost passion, innermost desire, and give it an expression. And film has been that expression, at least till now. I don't know where life takes me from here. Now, I would just like to divide this into three different parts. First is promotion and preservation of cultural knowledge, where we are all born in our respective cultures, and it's blessed again for me to be born in India because it has such rich cultural heritage, cultural background, rich heritage, and lots and lots of ancient wisdom and knowledge which we can impart to the world, and we can actually make the world a better place just because what we have to offer as Indians and from India. So being in India, I felt that for the longest time, the impact, the way art was going out from India in pockets was a bit negative. It was being depicted with poverty, with backwardness, with no education or whatsoever. So I felt that if I have been handed over this tool of making films, then I should be taking the responsibility of disseminating the right information and putting it in the right light to the world. And that was so important for me. So I lost many contracts in the process. I was jobless for the longest time because people love sensation, and television and filmmaking is all about a sensational media. It is a sensational media because you want to have an adrenaline rush when you watch something. You want to feel excited when you watch something. But what is your takeaway? What are you coming back with? What is that thought that you're walking out with when you walk out of a cinema hall or a theater or whatever? So I just was I was like driven into making something which carried India out to the world in the right light. So I started making films which were to do with various tribal sectors in India, and they had a lot to offer. They were very, very indigenous, very backward, and not really in the modern sense of the word, out there. But because they were so grounded and so close to nature and so rooted and so earthy, it was like for them to be spoken about to the rest of the world was very important. So I did make some films with certain nomadic cultures of our northeastern belt, and from there on I kept shifting my genres because, as I said, I am a student of life. So I kept going further and further and further. And then I decided that even paranormal, for that matter, is a subject which has had a very negative connotation. Because the moment, like even when we were kids, we read comics and we read storybooks, and the ghost has a very ugly picture. So, you're given to the red tongue and bloodshot eyes and, turned around foot and all that. So I thought, okay, that is another area which I should bring out positivity. So I made some films where I created paranormal as coexisting entities with us. We are in the body, they are not. So why don't we create cinema or films where paranormal is considered as people like we are maybe 10 or 15 here, but probably we are 100 right now. They may be here, many of them, and not me, they are here. So, that was another journey. So, how you can transfer your, whatever you've been brought up with, whatever your learnings are, whatever your experiences are, and take them beyond boundaries, geographically taking them around, is what my learning is. And art is a very, very strong medium to do that. And the next is creativity. My creativity through my films gets on and gets transferred to another person's creativity, how that person absorbs it. So it's a sharing of your creative knowledge, creative energies, creative thought process. So for me, it is like when you make a film, and it's not just me making a film, it also involves the viewer's reaction. For me, it's very important how the person is going to react to what I'm watching, or what I'm making, or what I'm showing. So there also you are co-sharing, or co-walking that journey with your viewers. It's so important. And the third is intercultural connection. Now, I think it's more or less similar to the cultural knowledge, but yes, I would like to expand that each of us are brought up with certain social conditionings. We are brought up in our respective cultures. We have certain way our society functions, the way our family structures are, and the way we are brought up. And each country has that, respectively. So and art is one medium, can be any form of art, is one medium which is also a hugely healing journey. It's a healing process. So how you are able to co-share with your fellow people, fellow beings all over the world, and healing each other. And my dearest friend here, Sintha, she is fantastic. She heals people through art. And she's a psychotherapist, and she's fantastic. So I learned a lot from her, and I realized that her work and what I am able to do with my little capacity is also, we are all healing each other. We all need healing at some point in time. We all need hand-holding at some point in time, and art is a great medium, is a fantastic medium. And then another thing which I was able to do post my paranormal phase was I realized that over time when I made paranormal films, I realized that I was getting into a line which was very close to spirituality. When you talk of paranormal and the spirit world, it's your spirit. It's the spirit, how you're opening up your own spirit and connecting it to the higher spirit, the cosmic self. So then I wanted to have a deeper understanding of that, and that got me into making spiritual documentaries. And that was, now there are lots and lots of religious channels around India where, as you all know, that India is deeply grounded. We've got millions and millions of gods, especially Hindus. So lots of spiritual films, religious films have always been made over years. And we talk about various gods. There are lots of discourses. There are lots of seminars where people are giving big lessons out of Bhagavad Gita or other scriptures. But spirituality meant different for me. Spirituality for me is a way of life. How you are able to shift your consciousness, how you're able to expand yourself, how you're able to merge yourself with the outside, as within, so without. So what you are inside, you're manifesting itself outside, and vice versa. So for me, that was spirituality. So my documentaries also took me on this huge journey of learning. And because I had no takers in India, because as I said, India is more rooted on religion. So I went outside and I got my buyers and takers from people around the world. And these documentaries went out. Some of my films were made in Dutch. Some of my films were dubbed in French and other European languages and shown all over the world. So I realized that we're basically all one. We're just all one, because there are takers out there sitting in Timbuktu who's watching my film and getting connected and can relate to it. So that's where I felt that film as a medium is so important, or art as a medium is so important. And connecting people, making them feel one, holding each other, healing each other, and belonging to one world. We are one world. I would now like to open to any questions.
Yes, questions.
Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you can hear me. Thank you. It sounds wonderful, but it's not easy to make process? How did you organize it? Because I'm making a documentary. But I'm not the filmmaker. I'm the one who came up with the story.
So you conceptualize.
Yes.
Okay, so I direct and produce. So how I started? Well, there's a little story to it if you have the time. I was into academics and I was a dancer. And I got admission for my doctorate in the US. And I was ready to go when I was performing on stage and I fell. And as luck would have it, I had to completely shift my career because my dad didn't allow me to travel. So that's how, by default, I enrolled myself in a media school. And I studied, but I didn't study anything about filmmaking. I studied about PR and advertising. And again, I joined an advertising agency, a series of advertising agencies after that in the film and AV departments. But I really learned something on the job. And then, because of Indian society, I was pushed into getting married. I was getting pushed into getting married, and I ran away from home. I ran away to Australia. And I stayed there, painting houses and washing dishes for 2 years to survive. That's where I met a very interesting documentary filmmaker. Bless his soul, he's no more, Ken Dyer. And he took me around him, and he was so beautiful, such a beautiful human being. He opened this window, this world for me, which was of documentaries. So when I came back home, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and that's how I got into it. Okay.
Now I have a question.
Yes.
No, I'm okay without that. So you spoke about preservation and promoting the culture through your documentaries, and you spoke specifically in context of India and how rich our culture is and how we've gone ahead and done that. Are there any patterns or any insights that you can share across cultural knowledge across the world? So, India versus the world. Are there any common patterns?
Okay, I'll take an example of one of my films. I made a film on the oracles of Ladakh. Now these are middle women. These are like mystic women who connect with the spirit world.
I met one.
Oh, you have? They are beautiful.
She was reading for me.
They're beautiful women. They're beautiful. So I was making that film, and while I was studying, and I was studying a lot of anthropological reports from people in Europe and US, and they compared the oracles with the shamans. Now, shamans exist all over the world with different names. There are shamans in Latin America, there are shamans in Europe, in Serbia, in so many parts, and they all have different names. There's psychics in some place, middle women in some other place, and oracles in another place. And I realized that all of them, they are uneducated. Some of the places like oracles, they've never stepped out of Ladakh. They live in this little village. They probably don't know if the world outside their world exists. And then there are shamans in other parts of the world, thousands and thousands of kilometers away. Yet, the route they take to get into a trance or to get into that state, an altered state of consciousness where they connect with the other world, is exactly the same. How did they know that a shaman sitting in the Amazon or Guatemala is doing exactly what an oracle in Ladakh is doing? So we are coming down from a time where we were like this, and now we've scattered geographically, but we've not changed. We're just the same. Any other questions?
But it could also be that all of us have that inner knowledge within us.
Absolutely.
We just need to bring it out.
Absolutely. And I think that was also one of my learnings, that I also read somewhere while I was doing filming for this, is that we actually use only 10% of our potential in our entire lifetime.
True.
90% gets unused, remains unused. So we have to push ourselves, we have to push those buttons all the time to actually be able to hear everything. Those voices are always talking to us.
they're always sending messages to us. They're always wanting to help us hold our hand. We don't, because we have such a clutter here. We have such a traffic jam here all the time that we hardly get their voices, we hardly hear them. So we have to empty ourselves out, get into nothingness, and that's when the voices will be heard. And it works. It works. We all have that potential.
That's true.
Ma'am, you spoke about the films that you made about spirituality, and prior to that, your experience of making films on paranormal. And the films that you made about spirituality found a wider audience, and with that, one got the conclusion of, we are all one, and we are talking about connecting to everyone through the same medium. It's super interesting. You could tell us a little more about your experience with, and you also said that when you made films on spirituality, you did not want to talk about gods or any kind of bhakti movement or anything, which I think is super interesting, which is what I feel, gives one the wider base in terms of connecting as one. So I'd be very happy if you could tell us a little more about your experience on the spiritual movies that you made, the spiritual films that you made, and what your current project that you're working on is.
Okay, see, for me, it was each film was transformative, hugely transformative, personal transformation, and it was almost as if I was leading. If you have to compress one full life into that one few months, it was exactly the same. I was a new person after the film. It just brought out an aspect of me which I never thought existed. So I'll give you an example of one of my films which was very deeply impactful for me. I spent most of my adolescent years and pre-adult life in just being super anxious child, very rattly, very fidgety, not knowing where I'm heading, what do I want. And I was doing extremely inane work in Mumbai. And that was to do with fiction and soaps and all, because we all need to sustain. So that's the work I was getting at that point in time. And I was wanting answers. And at that time, I got an offer from TBS in US, Turner Broadcasting System, to make a film on the Aghoris. The Aghoris are Shilpats who live by the cremation grounds in Varanasi. And they are known to be cannibals. They are known to be having a very negative connotation to themselves because they do things which normally people can't even dream. So everybody kind of stopped me from going. I said, no, I'm heading, and if I feel it is dangerous, I'll step back. But then I need to give it a shot. So I went to Varanasi. Varanasi has Manikarnika Ghat, which is the cremation ground. And according to Hindus, the bodies get burnt. So that's a huge cremation ground. It's called the burning hearts of India because it is constantly 24/7 burning. It never stops burning. And these Aghoris, they consume the flesh of the dead. So on the first day when we arrived in Varanasi, I told my crew that we are going to the ghats and we are sitting there in the evening, not with our equipment, nothing's going with us. We're only going to be absorbing the energies. I just need to see what is it about this place that needs to go into that film. So we went there and I sat there, and there are these fumes which keep coming up like that, and they don't allow you to sit very close to the bodies where it's getting burned. So you sit on the stairs, which is a little above. But behind those stairs are the bodies which are coming down, like people who just died, and they're coming down for being burned. And the fumes are coming towards your side, and there's the Ganga that side. So we were sitting there, and after a couple of hours, my crew said, my sound recordist and cameraman said, we can't handle this, we're going back to the hotel. But something told me, I'm not stepping back yet. I'm sitting there. And before I knew, I was there till sunrise. I was there till dawn, and that was the biggest turning point of my life. Because I realized that first of all, what I got was detachment, sense of attachment. That if this is life and just not even 10 meters away is death, why do we break our heads in running to things which, when our end is there, and we take nothing. We take nothing, with us. So that was a very important lesson for me. And the second thing which I realized, of course, in the course of making that film, I realized was I met somebody very, very, very wise as an Aghori, and he turned my life around. And I realized that this is it. There's no looking back for me. I'm now a soldier of the high forces. I have no other role to play. I have no control whatsoever on my life anymore. This is it. And from there on, I never changed work. And I never did fiction again. And I never did inane work again. So that was one learning lesson I learned. And subsequent to that, many, many films, every film was a huge transformation for me, personal transformation.
Can you share your film and just give the subject matters of the films you've done?
Yeah, so Aghori was one film. And then I made a film on, have you heard of auto writing? It's a psychic ability when the higher forces guide you to write and they send you messages. So I made a film on that, and that was actually based on a spiritual teacher who was alive until the early 60s. He's called Meher Baba, and his samadhi is in Mehrabad near Pune, in Aurangabad. So I made a film on that. And then I made a film on Ganjifa cards. Now these cards are known to be the very first tarot which was discovered in the world. So the gypsies, apparently, it's known to be that gypsies carried it from India to Europe and it came back with this name of tarot. So that's another film I made. And then I made 2 documentaries on Western women who, one is a scientist from Stanford, and she came to India and never went back. She's a sadhu. So one film on her. And the other film is on an English woman born Catholic in UK, in London. And she couldn't find her answers in being a Catholic because she said, I don't understand. How can you be sinned by someone who says he loves you? In Catholic they say that you sin. So she was looking for answers. She sailed out of London and she landed in India and she never went back. It's been close to 50 years. And she is a very beautiful star. Extremely beautiful woman. So that was another film I made. Then, what are the other films we were talking about? So subsequent. These are the kind of, films I have.
Well, I think it would be very nice at the conference if you showed some of your documentaries. It would be very interesting for the people at the conference.
Oh, I would love to.
And I think you could carry 10 sessions. But I do have a question for our other speaker.
Yes, please.
I wanted to ask you, you have an art gallery.
Yes.
What kind of art is in your art gallery? How do you choose it? How do you market it? I'm curious.
Before having an art gallery, I have an NGO wherein we support artists, and we promote Indian art. We move from we travel to various parts of India, in search of artists. We find the best of art, which signifies maybe culture, state, particular community, tribe.
But so you're not talking about paintings, you're talking about handicrafts.
So we're talking about handicraft and paintings here, and sculptures and installations, everything. My gallery is in Delhi only, very close to the place in Dwarka. You're most welcome there. So we're just playing, my gallery is spread over 2 floors, and we're displaying around 80 works. There's an exhibition going on. And so depending upon, because it's an NGO, so we want to encourage people to enter into art. It's a very ignored section or sector in India. So we welcome all kind of artists. But how we promote is that we have, through our galleries, we're coming up with a very new concept which is called art dinners, wherein we're inviting people for dinners and there'll be curated art shows, wherein we'll be telling them, what art is all about, what Indian art is all about, what this particular artist is all about. And so that is one concept that we are coming up with. The other thing, what we do is we do a lot of online promotion. We try and reach various countries through online portals. So there's a very good portal, American-based portal called Artistry, wherein we represent Indian art. Through Artistry, we represent it in 190 countries. And my artists, who are from smaller villages, have been able to reach a global market through these portals. And we also work a lot with media, wherein we do various programs on what this artist is all about, what this particular form is all about. So that's what we do.
So you have a website?
We have a website. I'll give you my card. So it is www.vernssage.com. I'll give you my card.
Okay.
And through that website is the people from all these other villages, or is it through the?
That website only talks about the art and bit about the art.
So what about the artistry one that you guys face website portal?
Artistry is a marketing platform. It doesn't talk about artists, but it only promotes artwork. It's a selling platform.
So that website is called
Artistry, A-R-T-S-Y.
A-R-T-I-S-S.
No, A-R-T-S-Y.com. .net.
Artsy. Artsy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with this, I think we'll conclude this session. Thank you so much, now Sunainaa, Magann, and Mahiema Anand for sharing great experiences and telling us about your art gallery and telling us about your experiences of creating those lovely documentaries and about the spiritual world and all of that. Thank you so much. We'll conclude the session here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
4:45. He was as a C and CH4. What's that? 4 now. 4:45.
Hello, hello, hello.
neighborhood can be
good morning, actually good afternoon. We'll start this session. It's called Design Thinking for Feminism and Social Change, Deconstructing the Norm and Embracing Diversity. And here I have Namjoshi, and I have Medhavinee, and we have, Medhavinee, and we have Patrick here. So, who would like to go first?
Well, good afternoon once again, and welcome to this session on Design Thinking for Feminism and Social Change. We thought we'd play this by the ear because we didn't know the audience and how it would go. So I'll just speak very briefly about FES and VACHA. FES is the organization which we represent, the Frederick Ebert Stiftung, and VACHA is one of our partner organizations. I'll also briefly introduce you to the two main speakers, and then we'll take it from there. Well, basically, as the name suggests, Frederick Ebert Stiftung is a German organization, and it works very closely on the values of social democracy and believes in that socio-economic political growth should be grounded in the values of social democracy, and that's what you will see in most of the work which is done through the foundation in more than 100 countries where it is represented. And we also think of ourselves as a think and do organization, which is a think tank, and trying to engage in different new forms so that we can look at the issues in a way that it is more relevant and takes more people along with us. I'll also tell you a little bit about VACHA. VACHA is one of our partner organizations of developing into diversity, value equality, and I think what we are going to talk today resonates very well with the theme of the whole world, on creating, innovating, understanding, and driving the future. Because through design thinking, we are trying to address exactly those issues with our partners and in our main lines of work, which is related to gender and women's empowerment. And one of the biggest, I won't say a bottleneck, but one thing which comes up time and again when we are dealing on different issues of gender and women's empowerment is this whole thing about the mindset and how to change the mindset and to make an inroad in that think out of the box and engage in a different way. So Patrick was talking a little bit about how we went about this and what we've done in that area, and Medhavinee will be how it was done through VACHA and just to introduce you to the main speaker, Patrick is the Deputy Representative of the University office, soon to be the Resident Representative, and he was responsible for the Gender and Women program. Previously, he was in charge of the business network in Germany, promoting social dialogue and focusing on the digital change and its effects on business society. Working for FES, Patrick loves to think out of the box and show that there's always an alternative way to the norm. Medhavinee is currently working as Executive Director of VACHA Research Center for Girls and Women. She has been working with girls and girl-health issues as well as gender issues for the last 9 years. She is a trainer, facilitator on the issues of gender and patriarchy, and has conducted numerous training with diverse groups of students. So we'll begin with Patrick, and please tell us a bit about how we will design this.
Thank you, Damyanty. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm going to tell a little bit about what FES is doing with because we're a global organization of roughly about 120 offices worldwide. One of our core missions and activities has always been to promote an inclusive society which has basically gender equality at the core of our belief, of what we believe as the value of social democracy, which means inclusive society. As such, our gender work has always been the core of our work, and all over the world we've given a lot of seminars, working a lot with progressive actors, promoting the idea of gender equality between the different genders and different gender identities. And when we come to India, we also traditionally we have a lot of very active groups promoting the rights to gender sensitization trainings, like VACHA, our colleagues, helping to understand why are we active in the field as such, what are the rights of women in the country, how can we change the situation. But basically, we after a year realized we're doing all these seminars where we got all these similar-minded people together in the room with a lot of activist groups promoting the women's rights, promoting gender equality. we talked about how's the situation in the field, how is the situation of women in the country, in the world, what we can see, what has to be changed in terms of law, what has to be changed in social attitude. But at some point, we all agreed on that. So, okay, we have to fight violence against women. We have to have gender parity. We have to have probably a quota when it comes to the electorate. We need to have parity in the legal representation in the parliament. So all that is agreed upon, and we all agree, we share, and we look around the partners, the groups, and saying, yes, that is what we want. Okay, but how come there is no change happening? Or very, very little change happening? And that isn't equally, happening all over the world in different kinds of spheres? It looks as women have a lot of power in some countries. It looks like you have some role models available. If you look in India, you have quite a powerful prime minister at the time. You have a lot of business women all over the place, but still somehow structurally there is not a lot of change. So then we realize, well, we kind of when we think about that, we know the problems, we kind of know what has to have changed, what needs to be changed, but then how come there is no change happening. This is where Damyanty has said this. But in the end, it's about the mindset, which is basically, put in other words, the patriarchic mindset, and there must be something that kind of prevents from that actual progress to happen. And I give one very kind of illustrious example that happened when we had a regional conference that took place in Pakistan. There was a Chinese participant, women's activist, and so the Pakistanis were asking, well, we know kind of, if you look in our country, there's a very religious and political system that is really preventing progressive situation of women. But if you look at China, you don't have religion. So technically, you're a communist country, so technically all citizens are equal. How come that still women are not equally represented? If you look particularly at the political structures and the power structures, how is that women are so little represented in that circles? And that took a lot of thinking also to the Chinese and to the group, saying, well, there must be something apart from the obvious structurally that is preventing that progress to be happening. So then we also had a thinking of, okay, one year we're doing all these nice gender seminars, and we all agree on the problems, and we all agree on, okay, it's the patriarchic mindset, okay. But that's not very satisfying, is it? I mean, there are a lot of groups, we all want to change the world, but somehow it's not that. This is where we came up, okay, let's start actually with that question, how do we change the patriarchic mindset? How do we get this change happening? And apparently we are not in the majority of doing that. So we need to reach out to a larger group. We'll not be already convinced, because if we talk to women groups about women issues, it's not surprisingly that we all agree we want to get the change done. But how do we reach out to the other people? What people do we need on board on what we call this broader alliance for social change? And there are different ways of reaching out. So you can
work with boys and parents to sensitize them to having vocal, independent, strong girls and women around them. So a lot of our strategies involve that. But through design thinking, when we work into the exercise, learning inspirations, look at our own strategies and stakeholders, as like we call them, stakeholders, with whom we were dealing with day in and day out. Because when we work with, especially women, in a way it's easy to talk to them about fighting through the oppression or abuse. But with girls, it becomes especially very tricky because they are still dependent, they are not legally adults. And it's not easy for them to walk away from situation of violence, which is most of the times the rules they are moving up to. So how do you prepare them, though a lot of feminists feel we have long gone ahead of negotiation phase, still with adolescent girls and boys there is a lot of negotiation that we need to train them in. So how do we do it? And to do that, we really need to understand the psyche of the stakeholders as to what negotiation will work with them, what will not work with them, and what will bounce back on curtailing the freedom and access of adolescents and women. So this whole design thinking has really helped us to understand that in a better way.
And as the Medhavinee was saying, when we work with adolescent boys and girls, what happens really is, A, they're very poor, they're migrants, they're marginalized. So, there is this different way of looking at themselves that they have in their mind. So at times, before you start working with them, there is a very huge need to make them understand that a person has multiple dimensions to their personality. There are a lot of aspects to us which really make what we are today. And a lot of times, organization or the kind of social environment we have around does not allow us to identify that as being, coming together or splitting ideas. I'll give you an example. The society likes to think of us, wants us to think as, a particular woman belonging to a particular caste, belonging to a particular class and religion. And that is how they separate you from somebody who is facing exactly the same kind of situation like you, saying that they are the others. It is very easy to make somebody other in a society like India, especially in a slums like Mumbai, where you have lanes of people migrating from a particular section of the country, speaking a particular language, coming from a particular community, caste. And then, even if the whole community has water shortage, it's easy to say, no, they are English speaking. You are Marathi speaking, don't come together. And that breaks the strength. That breaks the strength of girls when they say they don't go to school, but they're Muslims. You don't go to school, your situation is different. So, what we really do through certain exercises like social ground is ask certain questions which are actually related to their day-to-day experiences, that join them together as women, that join them together as somebody who face similar kind of marginalizations, and ask them whether then religion comes into the room. Is religion really a factor in these marginalizations? Is really your, or whether it is the socioeconomic conditions in which you are living, the main criteria for your marginalization? To just give you an example, we were thinking of doing an exercise here, but it's too difficult with this kind of crowd. But if I just ask you a question and you can raise your hand, how many of us had working mothers here? Okay. And for those who did not raise your hands, or those who raised their hands, was it professional work or was it domestic work that came to your mind? Professional, right? So when we talk about women and labor and value of women's labor, women who did not raise their hand did not even consider domestic work, which is such a valuable work, part of women's contribution to economy as well. And then you talk about dignity of women, you talk about women's work. In India, especially when you have property transferred from one person to another, it's very easy for Indians to remember father's name, father's name, his father's name, but you would not remember your mother's name as well, because she is always your grandma. She never has a name in Indian culture. And that's how you do not even take pride in your legacy. You do not take pride in your own heritage. Who are you part of? Who is giving you things? And that's how there are more questions like that. How many people have taps in home? How many people fill water from outside? How many people have access to newspaper at home? Because a lot of families cannot afford that. I have a question on this. So, birth in legacy. But our legacy relies on our father's name. Yes, precisely. So we have discussion on that as well. And now things are changing slowly and steadily, but minuscule way. So you discuss the politics of name, and in India you have family name. So the whole politics around that is also discussed and questioned. And whenever you have the family tree made, always the women are missing in Indian family trees. So you have a discussion around that as well. And then, a lot of points come together, and also you make them understand that we are all facing similar kind of crises or issues. And, there is this whole advantage that a particular group is getting out of keeping us separate. And why we need to understand that, and why we need to look at it very critically and start questioning that. And, identifying what the others are gaining through keeping us away from each other. Or saying this issue is not my issue but her issue. So how do we understand that every woman's issue is, at the end of the day, every woman's issue? It's not her issue or my issue, it's our issue. and how do you look at it together? That's what you do. I think I'll request Patrick to do the deconstruction of a stereotype. But before that, I'd also like to ask him to say a little bit about how difficult or easy was it to bring on board the partners on engaging with this newer forms of dealing with issues which have been persistent for such a long time. And that's what you do about that.
Well, I think our partners have been very open-minded to that. But it was, it's not that we haven't done similar exercises before, because we have this multi-minded stakeholder analysis, no, saying who do we have in the society, the politicians, which sort of modern, progressive, women or gender world, and then there are others who kind of hold it back, and then we basically have this little question of quotation and not women reservation bill, etc., etc. But somehow it is slightly different because we have to understand, okay, this is the level playing field that we are in, but we have to understand where do we stand and which kind of people do we need, what kind of we can map it on an axis, who are the ones really close to our cause, but that needs a little bit of convincing and reaching out that we get them on the board, what we call transactional allies. No? It's not really hardcore, which is absolutely against what we want. That will be extremely difficult. With some religious beliefs, think that women just are the second grade of human beings, and you will never reach out to them. Forget about that. And we also apparently we don't have the legal powers or majority in parliaments to get some reservations ahead. But what we as civil society do have is a voice. The voice makes a narrative, and the narrative might change, and that might be exactly what we need to get that change done. So in that sort of sense, we got together with the partners and said, now really let's focus on we're going to do the exercise as a stereotype, but the idea is really each and every organization of ours get to that particular person in your day-to-day life that is making your life a bit more difficult. You can be the local bureaucrat that you need to get some paper signs to get the financial documents ready or to get the finance flows. It might be just a teacher, it might be just a parent in the street. And to show you some sort of example, we just made the stereotype of poverty. Poverty is 14 years old. She lives in Nayra, which is a suburb of Mumbai. And when she's grown up, Poverty would like to be a banker. Poverty likes to sing. She's very good at maths. She's proud of being the class rep. And Poverty loves her family and also has a lot of friends, which she also loves. So I guess we can all picture her. So one day she would like to have her own smartphone because she realizes in class everyone is now in contact with WhatsApp, and that's the place to be, to share information, to share selfies, and to just feel part of that group. But unfortunately, her father doesn't allow her to have a smartphone at home, so she's very, very sad. Poverty loves her dad, she loves her family, but she knows if she doesn't have a smartphone, she would lose her popularity in school if she doesn't have that phone. Makes sense. So we know all that story, but now it's the question set, so what do we do? So design thinking in that sense now started looking at the father. And that is the new part of it, which we haven't done so far with our partners, is what does the father think? What are his beliefs? What are his needs? What's his background? What does he like? What doesn't he like? And how can we use that to make something happen? So to give you a bit of more example or information about the father, which we call Namjoshi. Mr. Namjoshi is 37 years old. He works as an accountant. And his personal status, he's proud to be a Brahmin and the treasurer of the Brahmin Senate. He has a bachelor in commerce. But as a kid, Mr. Namjoshi always wanted to become a doctor. But he never had the financial means for that. He was the eldest, so he had to start working right after school. So his father basically said him get some money going on and become an accountant instead of a doctor. As a kid, Mr. Ramyoshi always felt very lonely because his father was never at home. Because his father was working in a mill in Mumbai. And missing the security and also being the eldest, he had a special responsibility and a special social pressure on him to take care of the family. His mother also died very young, so he was brought up as a very old aunt, adding up to the social pressure on him to take care of his family. So for him, education is the key for success, and performing, and education is a social way out. So that's why he also loves his family, because he always felt insecure, and he kind of lost his mother in his early days. And he got the understanding that he needs to study a lot to really get something going on. And that is why he doesn't want his daughter, Harvard, she loves him very much, not to have a smartphone, because the smartphone would distract her from studying, and that she might get in some unworthy relationships, because that is very important to him. So this is kind of the situation. And Parvati, after thinking a while, she understands her father's worries, but she still feels very sad. So then she has an idea. So that is kind of representing, we'll come to that idea in a second, but that is kind of the understanding. No? We all feel very sad in the situation as it is, and we kind of understand the power structures that are out there, but really not to get that change happening. So this is why we kind of started deconstructing Mr. Ramyoshi and using design thinking to basically really working hard to get as much information as possible on that proposal, that particular person. Particularly when it comes to likes, dislikes, and understanding his basic needs. Like Mr. Ramyoshi, for example, he likes temples, he likes people who listen to him without question. He likes unsolicited advice, tradition, family, values, and career. What he dislikes are modern people, that is working women, LGBT people, love marriage, other castes, other religions, any kind of change, Western outfits, Tinder, listening to women in the family, expression, emotion, and confrontation. That is, by the way, an example that we did as part of our exercise, and really thinking hard on how does Mr. Ramyoshi that part of feels like. And understanding the situation that I explained about the family background, the social background, the basic point is understanding the needs that he has, which is he needs trust and care, he needs attention, control, sense of belonging, help, peace. So the real question is now how to work into that, and basically how do we enable Ram, who also believes, for example, that boys should not cry, to express his feelings also. Because there's also the trust of belonging, there's this feeling of secure, and what happens if insecurity is happening, or he feels he's losing control of his daughters. So how might we help that father who believes that modernity breaks the family to let his old 14-year-old daughter study in co-education at school, or just have this smartphone? For that, the whole design thinking exercise, it's basically understanding again what's the value that we need to create to get him on board, but kind of what pain relievers can we offer him so he can live with letting lose control, but in a way that he feels still okay with it. How do we readdress and reapproach, how do we reframe our issue, that is getting poverty a phone and getting a good education and career, without getting him on board so he doesn't feel as bad about that. I'm going to catch up, maybe we can come back to that later, so I'll just go out what the solution to our problem is, what's poverty to be. So when her dad is at home, she invites her friends to discuss how discussing on the phone actually helps them do their homework. So after all the friends are gone, poverty stays silent. The dad asks, why? What happened? Well, she said, because I'm not having a phone, I'm not a cool person anymore. I'm losing popularity. Nobody likes me because I cannot connect with my friends, so they think I'm boring. And then basically also telling her, because you're not letting me have a phone, you just can't do that. That makes me losing popularity again. So what's happening there? No. So Mr. Ram then suddenly understands, the social status of my daughter might actually run me under threat. And she's kind of losing popularity, and that's actually what he doesn't want for her. So he has this inner conflict, no? So she's losing her social status, but then again, he wants her to study and focus on studying her education. So what to do with that? So again, Parvati talks to her dad, and she said, like, well, look, that's why my friends were here. You can use technology, use your smartphone to actually interact with people. And we're doing that to improve our studies, to learn from each other and help us with our homeworks. And it's just a little bit different from the old study groups. We're just doing it online. And that actually starts convincing him. And because she will access that new learning and value. Yeah. So she basically convincing him that, well, once I get a smartphone, I can easily connect with my friends and ask them for their help. I can also use that app, which I very much need for my education and as a learning tool. So that's when finally that understands, well, it might be a good choice for her. So she can get the education, she will preserve her social status, and after talking to the friends, after seeing that the wonderful app improving my daughter's ability, I might kind of feel secure with that idea of having a smartphone. So finally, Parvati's attitude goes back. So that's kind of the very stereotyped model. No, it's a stereotype. We know that, but that's kind of an example exercise that we are doing. That design thinking is really helping us, really having the instruments, the means to really go deep, to do a lot of information needed from that particular person to understand those, to deconstruct, understand why are they acting the way they act. What is the needs? What's the power? What's the beliefs? What's the values? What's the whole idea of thinking behind that person? And how can we use that to reframe our issue, to address it at both of our parts? That's basically the journey of design thinking that we've started exploring, going down the lane to get social change happening. Because it's really that the stuff we've done before was good, but somehow it doesn't get us.
Thank you, Patrick. I could see Candice already coming up. Okay.
No, I was just wondering, it's very interesting. I was just wondering whether you only do it as stereotypes that you sit back at the office or within the organization and do it there, or whether you actually go out and ask for the real information from, for example, the dad. And I realize this is way out, but I mean, how is the interaction with the communities in terms of getting the information, and then also in terms of deconstructing it afterwards?
Any of us can answer that. Let me take the opportunity because we just did this exercise with one of our partner organizations in the field. And there it is, this was of course a very stereotypical example. We did it with an organization which is working on increasing the participation of women in politics, in panchayat. And there it was sitting with the elected representatives, sitting with the organizations who are working with those elected representatives, and deconstructing and seeing who would be the reporters. And let me say that one of the things which was very, very strongly objected to was the use of the word reporter. No, let's just not. So there's a lot of discussion around that, and now the next step is going to be that they will go doing interviews as it comes in the process of design thinking with what we call the reporters, which we do not call the reporters in the field, and seeing how it goes. That is what I said.
No, it's exactly that. I mean, in the very first exercise we did to make it a test case, we had this kind of stereotype. So this is the overprotective, the helicopter dad. There is this religious leader, these are the business people. But then you start, then putting a lot of hypotheses, and you don't really know the person. And that's why we said, no, we really have to get down. It is very stereotyped, what I said, but we're really going down. That's why we're using the partner networks who in the daily reaching, they know the persons, and the aim is to really go deep, dig deep, understand the person, get as much information as possible, and then come up with some outcome very, very concretely to change that particular person. It's a 2 to 3 years project, and scope, but if we can make it happen that that particular person might change the attitude to a project that is still being, we still have to find. Actually, we're having the next big session in August, where all the partners of us will come back with all the information they got, and then come up with the idea, what can we do to get them changed? And by the end of 2 years, we can prove that at least one person has changed that attitude, even if it's one dad in one street of this huge city of Mumbai. That is at least the point where we can show if the change is happening.
May I have one question, please? Yeah. Like for example, you took an example of father, right? Ma'am also said that that fathers are like that. But what about the mothers? Mothers are very overprotective amongst their daughters. They don't allow them to take phones with them. They don't allow the mothers they don't allow their daughters, basically daughters, to just go beyond what they have learned.
Actually, that was right in the beginning of the exercise that we're saying, well, we're working with stereotypes as an exercise. But using the stereotypes, we're kind of trapped in the same, so we're putting the world into black and white. And actually, as probably most of you know, that patriarchy, the nasty thing about it is that it's deeply embedded even in ourselves. We consider ourselves progressives, no? Because we are kind of stuck in that. So we said, okay, let's go down to the actual example. It could be a mother, of course, absolutely. It was just an example, but you could as well use the overprotective mother. And we know, we are aware of that, so that's why we asked our organizations to come up with their usual proposal, and which also brought us as an organization to next year to also consider basically the anti-stereotypes and looking at the examples where the other examples, is to show that, well, it can be the overprotective mothers, but also to show alternative models that already exist. It's not that, we pretend that, this is the situation, there is no change happening, there is a lot of change happening. Next year we're going to portray all the success stories and say, no, it is happening. No, it's just somehow we're not aware of, but there are already a lot of good examples.
And there are also boys who are going through the thing. Who are also going through the society who don't allow the boys to become what they want to be.
Absolutely, and that's what Nayra was saying when she said that we need to engage more with young boys and men. I see two more hands, so I'll try to be a little.
I want to extend my conversation from what Pat spoke about, that non-stereotypical people. I'm a daughter of a single mother, and I come from a very humble background, but I have seen something very different in my family, which I'm able to realize now. Somehow I have problem with the word feminism and feminist. I am not one. So, my mother brought my brother and myself up without keeping that gender biasness. We both are decently well known, maybe because of that. And my mother was more protective about my brother than me. Basically, maybe that's the reason we always read nowadays that you should bringing up your sons better than your daughters, because they should be able to treat their wives and sisters and women around better. And that's what happened in my family. My brother treats all the women around very well because of the upbringing, because he always seen that his sister is not treated as overprotective, and his mother was always a working woman and she was handling everything. So he respects that thing, and which I'm able to see, and that happened 20, 25, 30 years ago, and which is something I really appreciate, and I can see that difference, and I try to encourage that, because it's very different and it's very atypical of the kind of society we live in. So,
but I'm surprised that you say that you're not a feminist. What you're talking about is what feminism.
I don't know. Somehow there is I don't know. Maybe the definition. Exactly. No. Feminism means just equality. It's not the opposite of marxism. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what maybe the definition. We have to keep protecting and really finding the right way in word, feminism.
So when we are talking about, he is also talking about narratives with voices. So my girls in Mumbai are currently very strongly talking in their communities toward protection 50 times in and sharing. So my girls are very vocally saying in their communities, we want safety and not protection. So all the government systems, everybody today is saying, talking about protecting women, and they're saying we want a larger environment which is safe. And we do not want these, proxy safeguards, people who are again standing up and saying, this is not good for you. I'm here to protect you. They don't want that. They want an overall environment of safety for everybody, not just them, but the boys as well. So that's the kind of, nuances of narratives that we really, really need to be very, very aware of when we work on issues of this. Thank you very much. So actually, what I want to know is this kind of inequality management increase. So what I feel is right now is despite me being working with women, I'm always navigating this question on the and I come from a very educated background, very strong family. When I'm doing something in my job, that's what I find. The minute I take off from my job and I want to do something lesser than the kind of risk that I was in my job, in my life is very good. The minute I do that, I just navigate through. So I don't try to be that independent, I don't have that independence. And if I'm feeling that, and so there are more things feeling that in different ways. How do you get that? How do you change that? Because it's a very larger question.
Well, it's basically, we're talking about social change in the end and changing their mindset. So every one of us is embedded in some values which are embedded in a larger world. Basically, perception of how we see the world in a larger religious or philosophical belief. So that's the whole structure. And in the end, it's some sort of, in the end, it's all about power. Not power, but narratives and who is in control of what. And I think in that, that's all the exercise and understanding at least of why okay, it's your parents, why it's family, why people behaving the way they're behaving. And the first step is really understanding where they're coming from their emotional experience, because it's all deep rooted. But then when you start thinking about that, and when you talk about them, about their parents, there is a similar pattern which is larger, which is built in society.
And also, somewhere as professionals, we are ready to take risks and go beyond what is established and follow our heart. But at times when it comes to family, we tend to become less rebellious, and given to fit into the norms and not to disturb them the way we are ready to disturb the society agents outside. Somewhere as independent women, we need to look back at our own value systems and say, if this is really, really essential for me to do it, am I ready to, get into this kind of conflict with family otherwise? Because that's where I think a lot of times we are ready. So I just add that patriarchy can also be very benevolent, and we are all have the advantages of that benevolency, and that is the way that. There is a question for that. And it's a unique question. The process is extremely powerful. But what is the problem? We started this process. The second one is change requires powerful stories. How are we amplifying these stories? The third one is that this process requires a lot of work experience. What is the kind of people that works on this process for people? That's a long list of questions. And we just have 5 minutes left. So, Patrick, okay, we have 1 or 2 more questions. We'll connect them and then we have to close it.
No, it was just a comment. You were saying that they have objected to the reformers in the. I'm thinking and it goes with your questions actually. The positive reframing for those people would be that they're change makers. They're really the ones that we want to change. And so the story of them changing would be the success of whatever project the success of the community. So whereas with holders, I understand why you object. a wide array of characters which they could come out of the black and white, and they're definitely the black part in that. I mean, I live in Africa, so we're not black in that sense, but black in the bad sense. So yeah, but just the situation.
I think I let these questions go to
Thank you. I think the larger vision about that, and this in Africa, is actually that's where we draw our approach from, which is called, there's another thing that we're using as IDS, which is transformative change making. That's basically building a new narrative for social change. And building a broad rainbow coalition. And that's the second method we're using is building a common vision from what we can call the holders from different groups in society, which have different interests and different power structures, and reaching out, going into the future, look, how do we want the society to be, let's say 2050, and what do we have to do now to make that change happen. That's an exercise that has been used in South Africa. Of building, we have such a diverse country, with such a diverse history, and a lot of problems, different groups, different interests. How do we make a peaceful transition to larger common vision? And being in India, I mean, this is equally diverse country with a lot of languages, cultural histories. So basically, the vision is, I mean, we're coming from Ruether was the very first democratic president. And was founded 90 years ago. It's our core belief, that was the giver's core belief, that the democratic society can only work if everyone can equally participate in the process of shaping the rules for society, which transforms into technical terms as laws. Know how we can make sure in a parliamentary and a social process that all the voices are being heard equally, so we can come up with common rules that we all agree on, which basically are kind of the implementation of the common vision that we see ourselves for a common society. So that's the broader kind of vision that we want to build. We call social democracy, which means social justice, gender equality, equality part, humanistic, and equal society. That's our broader vision. And as I said, I mean, we're working with all these civil society groups, a lot of gender groups, but then we're kind of stuck in the yellow and other problems, but there is no progress. So that's why we said we need something else. We need to, first of all, understand what's the other people in the fields thinking, what their needs. We know they have the power. We know that's the center of political gravity. We know we are on the sidelines of that, and how we can change that. And we don't have the legal majority yet. We don't have kind of economic power. So the only power we have is the power of the voice, is the power of the story, of the strong story. And that's exactly what we're aiming at. This is one of the design thinking examples that we do that really focus on, because we have limited resources, and basically, well, it's the team of us that Damyanty, my colleague Jyoti, we are the only ones taking care of. There is our facilitator Moritz sitting, who's helping us very much, who's really skilled in doing these exercises. And then we have our partner groups, the actual examples, and the Medhavinee and the budget. So that is exactly, we want to show that it is possible, and then the second one would be how to scale up, how we can use that example to really scale up and make it on a large scale. And this is where the other method we haven't really done in detail is transformative change making. Is where we have a lot of different people who are very interested in building that new vision for a new, in this case, India, and what do we need to do now and building that common vision. So that's how we're going to work for at least the next 3 to 5 years. It's a huge challenge. It's also for us a very new access point, but the power of the voice, the power of the people, that's our weapon in a sense, and that instrument we want to use and helpful with that new project.
I think we're getting signals that our time is up, so thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you very much, Ms. Anand. Thank Thank you, all of you, for very interesting.
Thank you so much for this lovely session, and it kept us very hooked and engaged throughout. And I think we have some pictures now.
He's actually the great guy who forced us to get information, get real information to the people. No, you have to really understand the people.
Thank you, everyone. And we have some literature on our work. Please feel free to take these books and brochures.
I mean, that's goes with many
Again, we just started either they don't know that they are stuck in the system, or they just run to the last but they don't know really why. That's the chance we're working a lot of nowadays with these young aspirations, they don't dance, they don't money being exploited. They're not for them also well, yeah. Thank you. See you next day. That's nice meeting you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Even though this is something against, the rebellion feeling is that छुपा के कहीं नहीं जाना. The more you get that culture, the more they want to experience it. Being a part of it.
Ich habe jetzt noch Gott. Ja.
So basically, we give it there. But I'm sure my comments
when you started taking films way back when South and also when you started
wenn man sozusagen das Prinzip weiß, wie kann man dieses Prinzip nutzen, um Namjoshi zu entwickeln? Das ist eine andere Herangehensweise ist, ich weiß gar nicht, wie das nennt, aber es gibt so Incentives oder irgendwie was ist immer das Richtige ist, das falsche Gründe. Also man sagt, da ist eines ist Zahnputzen. Wir putzen uns nicht die Zähne, weil wir wissen, dass wir in 20 Jahren saubere, gesunde Zähne haben wollen. Und weil wir jetzt in diesem Moment frischen Atem haben wollen, weil die Zahnpasta mit nützlich verbunden wird. Und man sozial besser dasteht, wenn man nicht das Wort steht. Und sozusagen der falsche Grund bewirkt das richtige im Raum. Das richtige Phänomen. Das ist sozusagen das Human Brain, das Ding, das Tricks. Ja, genau. Und das können wir jetzt vielleicht nochmal ein bisschen verarbeiten. Also er hat schon so eine Art Handbuch auch für seine Nutzung. Das ist eben auch für den Workshop nochmal vielleicht ist die Lösung für den Smartphone, ich habe ganz das ist wirklich das auch. Aber es war zwei. Aber das geschieht wirklich diese Person von Namjoshi von der dieses herzzerreißend in Anführungsstrichen. Das finde ich total gut. Der ist jetzt ja eher nach gewesen. Aber wenn man sich jemand anders vorstellt, ich glaube, es sind 2, 3 solche Personen erstmal zu schreiben. Ja, das ist zwar in so einem Stil oder irgendwie visuell. Das ist ja wahrscheinlich der Welle. Also wir haben jetzt zum Beispiel, wenn man im Westen oder sich der Welle ist, gerade nicht so eine Application, also so der Intercultural genau das gehört. Also kann ja mal noch ein paar Beispiele von Projekten zeigen, die wir gemacht haben. Wir haben zum Beispiel hier. Also ich kenne Illustratoren, ich möchte gerne was machen. Ich weiß nicht, wie teuer das ist, aber über Lissabon ein Buch gemacht oder eben auch über den Islam für Kinder und Erwachsene. Das hat sie jetzt illustriert und gemacht. Das ist eine total schöne Sache. Plastik. Kann ich auf jeden Fall mal mit Kontakt Freunde von Freunden. Ich will die eigentlich neu zubringen, aber das ist aber ich habe nicht nichts Vorgaben von
It's not too long, but
no, she doesn't need it warm. She needs the arms out.
Yeah.
She doesn't sugar and body. Jyoti, you know, we were school, we met after 40 years back. And you know such a relation.
Gerade bei sowas, immer so Geschichte, es geht ja nicht nur zweimal oder einmal nach Ungarn.
Very complicated exercise is just otherwise. So first we do a room and then we come back for lunch.
Well, we're planning on doing that. This is how we just there's there one big seminar and we have just nothing a video documentary down, but we still have to work on that because it's not yet to the quality that we want. But the idea is to have like there's one of these manuals. But that's the other method, this transformative change making, where we need to do something. Yeah. We need to do something to do something similar for the design thinking. We just need a bit more kind of photos and experience because it's that's actually proven by the end of the year. We want to see that this can happen. Yeah. That's the idea of coming up with. In August we have the next session where they have to all the organizations have to line up very crazy ideas. And then we're going to pitch them to the record team to go through it another time and then basically next year implement the rest of them. And see if we can make sure by the end of next year we can show it's just a longer period of time, but we're planning, we need definitely to have some sort of material on that. So we have some pictures on the website, but it's not looking really well because we have to play. I mean, this is the first time we're doing this. We had a web last year. We had one seminar to try it out. But that was really working on these big stereotypes, but then that never works because at some point you're stuck because you don't know about the person. So that's when people start using what might he like, but you just actually don't know. And that's why the organizations really have to go and understand two actual persons. Because if we're talking about that father around Yashi and we just picture him, then a lot of people are going to start very quickly saying, we don't know. We don't know about his history, we don't know about his family, or anything. So that's quite crucial. That will probably take 20 years or 50. Yeah, but I mean, part of it, depending on the resources now, we have unlimited resources and we could speed up the process, but as all of our partners, this is voluntary, we're just happy that there's a lot of trust and they're doing that in their free time. It's value to them. business product design instrument which intend to adapt to social change and to very particularly social contexts. That needs a bit of playing around with it. But that's the whole process of trying again, what didn't work.
Also, you did this shop so
October was the first one. But now, basically, this was one cycle in itself, and now the new cycle started February this year. So it's fine. Yeah, we just didn't know how to. I looked at the feeling like after 1 year saying, we're doing this nice seminar. It was very unsatisfying. So now let's start with that, but then what? So, in the business world, I guess, it's also extremely, it would be very, very interesting. The idea of diversity and how that is supposed to add up to the company's performance. There's all these studies, but still, if you look at a lot of countries, it's just not happening. Yeah. Gender topic is core DNA. Basically, we're coming from the labor movement, and gender is kind of the core. Because, as I said, it's equality and getting on board women, it's quite crucial. So I think there's a lot of things that we also got stuck in this kind of gender mainstreaming. So we have this program, something with women that's getting to the core point and really mainstream, looking at all the stuff we're doing from particularly women perspective that we can be better than it. But this is well, each country has its own program, and we have regional programs, but we had a restart in Asia. Actually, 1 year ago, we started creating a feminism, the political aspect, the social structure, not social power. And that we started in Asia. Each country has to figure out in its own national context what we do best, and we came up with this ideas. That's the biggest gender talk really. Better way to connect, to tell the story. Even if it's a stereotype, even if it's just an example, but I think it's very powerful. Yeah, I was doing that slide. No.